Okay, motherfucker, I wanted to show you this because now I have edited the model a little bit to fix that thing that I talked about in the previous video, that little situation. You can see here there's this little dash line guy looking here. I'll explain that later, but that was a huge help in getting the little shit fixed. So now that this surface is a beautiful, beautiful fucking surface, and it is literally perfect for me to do 5-axis machining with. And I'll go ahead and show you the cut right now. So watch this. Smooth cutting all the way through. Going ahead, look at that, beautiful, beautiful cut. Continues around, very smooth cutting all throughout that surface. So I'm going to explain exactly what I did real quick, just and what the issue I think was, not just for me on the machining side, but I think this is actually going to be useful for you guys modeling as well. This little line right here, so if we go back into the model, basically, let's go over here, and I'm going to, where is this? This is the swept body, so I'm going to make this my current guy, and then I'm just going to hide the other bodies. So this is the surface I created to split that body, like to trim off the other body. And before, if we look here and we edit this guy, okay, so right now I've got it, I basically have my section curve as the top guy, and then another section curve, bottom guy, and then I just have a single guide here, which is just this one straight line. And so basically it just, from this down to here, along that, okay? And the thing is, you see all these points here because without defining these points, it really needed a lot of help. Otherwise, it was blowing up the surface, making something completely unrealistic and just horrible. So basically, I needed to define some points at which I wanted to almost act like extra guides, without actually drawing all those guides. And the issue was, you can see this little dash line here. I have one of these point figures set, like the point to point going from here to here, right? And I'm just doing it by alignment, by points here. That's what's creating all this stuff. So if I were to, and if you create a new point guide between two existing point guides, it basically splits the difference. So it looks at this point to point, this point to point, and it goes just right in between there. And delete that one for now. So the issue that I was having was where this curve right here and this curve, where they become, I don't know how to explain it really, they become really close, and I can't really explain it too well, but I knew the solution that I needed was to find basically the minimum distance between these two curves, and I needed that minimum distance, I needed a line there. And because basically that's going to define when the tool axis is facing one way and it needs to flip around and go the other way. When it rolls around the corner, basically, is what I'm trying to say. So that minimum distance is effectively kind of like a corner it rolls around. And so the part that I think is really slick, that is not exactly, what's the word I'm looking for? It's not obvious, right? It's not obvious, but I knew that I could, if I measured and tried to find a minimum distance, that I could measure just this curve, and I could measure this curve, and I know NX naturally just gives me this minimum distance here. And as you can see, it's right over that dotted line. And how I actually got that dotted line was when I do that measure, and then it shows me the minimum distance between the curves. If you go over here and you expand this out, these three little arrows, click that, expand that out, look at this, you get a new icon. It says create non-associative geometry on OK or apply. I never saw that there before, and I said fuck yes, and I clicked on that, which it basically, it acts like a toggle. So I clicked on that, and you can see now it changed the icon. And so now if I click OK or apply, which I'm not going to because I already have it, boom, what you get is it spits out this line here, which shows up in your non-timestamp geometry. So once I created that line, and then I went back to edit my sweep, what I did was I basically deleted all my points that were along this curve. So I created this point to point is basically just from one end of an arc to the next end of this arc, one end of an arc to the end of this arc, etc., all the way around. I was basically just using the ends of the arcs, okay? Because I know that between the ends of the arcs I want flat surfaces, right? Makes sense, you understand. So the difficulty was in this, you know, along the spline here, I want to go from spline to flat, and I want to do it in like the smoothest way that I possibly could, and that's why I needed that minimum distance line to basically say where the effective like kind of corner of it is, where it goes. I don't know how else to describe it. But once I got that line in there, sure, it's non-associative, so if either of these profiles changed, I would need to go back and measure and recreate that line. So it's not ideal for like, you know, for like revisions were to happen, but it solved my problem in this case, and hopefully, you know, we won't need to change it and whatever. But anyway, so once I created my set of points at the end of this line and this line, since I already had my between end of arc points over here and over here, and like I mentioned earlier, when you create new point sets in between existing ones, it basically splits the difference. So this worked out really well, because what I had was everywhere around these profiles I had different guides that were generated by points where I knew it was going to be like, it's going to be perfect, it was ideal, right? So basically once I had this one in there, then I could just go ahead and I basically click these 2 points to split the difference, then these 2 points, and I'm basically doing this just to increase the resolution, because this big distance right here with only these 2 guide points and then this one, I did regenerate without all these in-between guide points, and it did create me some funky geometry which wasn't useful. So all I did was basically go back in, and since I had this one and I had this one from the minimum distance, and I had this one, all I did was go in between and I clicked on this one to split it, and then I split that, and then I split that, and then I went over here and I made a split here, split here, split, 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 and that's, like I said, all I did was increase the resolution. And then once I did that, I got this beautiful surface here, and like I said, and then like I showed you in the beginning, the tool now moves around it perfectly, just as I would expect. No funky change in vectors. I anticipate no gouges. It's just going to be a beautiful surface. So yeah, didn't mean to draw this video too long, but because you guys do a lot of modeling and whatnot like that, I just wanted to show you that cool little tip as far as like when you use the measure and minimum line. There's probably more cool little features in that measure tool that allows you to generate geometry from measurements. So this is the first one I really stumbled on, and where it was super useful to me, and I want to share that. So alright, hope it helps you guys in the future. Take care.